Welcome. You're on the Fringe Show. I'm your host, Fringe Zalan, and I go live every Friday at 2 p.m. Dubai time. The Fringe helps you to understand the rapidly changing world and increase the odds of your success. Here we discuss technology, startups, entrepreneurs, and mental models of successful people so that you too can take advantage of the opportunities in the new digital world. It's episode 28, and on the show, I typically talk about high tech, things like blockchain, crypto, CBDCs, central bank digital currencies, NFTs, metaverse. What else do I talk about? Age extension, lab grown meat, and things like that. But today, I'm going to talk about something very low tech, but I believe equally powerful. Let me just remind you that it's a live show, so if please allow Facebook to identify you. What I'm going to present here and discuss here with you, it's one of my recent interests, and what you're going to hear is not by any means any health advice. All the information that I'm presenting is because I'm curious about it, and it's for informational and educational purposes only. What do you think was the most popular query on Google Trends globally in 2021? My dear friend Elisa, if you're watching the show, it's you who alerted me to that. Well, maybe I will be able to share it with you. I want to show you maybe a couple of minutes or maybe a minute of the video that was on Google Trends about the global trends back in 2021. Let's see now.
This year has been extremely challenging for me. I am broken. And I am healing.
I'm here at the memorial wall. I wanted to do something to remember my mum.
For some reason, I'm having anxiety. Obviously, it's normal with everything that's going on right now.
I think I'm going to take a break for a while.
You can get through it. And if you can get through it, there's a greater reward on the other side.
Just like anybody else, I'm just trying to do my little part to try and save my community.
I'm just really excited we're back open.
And I am smiling under my mask.
Incredible scenes of the day. The fans came back.
Welcome back to the theater.
And I think on this note, I will end it and go back to the usual screen. So as you can see here, that people were talking about how do I heal, how do I become resilient? And that was number one trending on Google in 2022, one of the questions, in 2021, sorry. And I think 2022 will be even more so about helping people to overcome the negative effects of the pandemic, and particularly on mental health. And I'm sure if you ask some people from Silicon Valley, there would have come some with a technological solution, something very high tech, maybe a mental kind of a map, or some kind of an app. And indeed, in Silicon Valley, they do believe in things like human augmentation, and they have visions of blending humans with machines, including for improved well-being and health. But what I'm going to talk today about is something, as I said, very low tech, yet I think it's very effective. And that's the Wim Hof method. Personally, I'm dabbling into this method. I'm starting with cold showers and will then progress to breathing, maybe programming the mindset, and ice water baths for better circulation and ultimately for better immune system and mental health as well. Just before I get into the Wim Hof method in itself, I want to mention a couple of things about our mental health during the pandemic, what went on. During the pandemic, according to some statistics, if you would take the US, about 4 in 10 adults in the US were reporting syndromes of anxiety, depression, and that's compared to 1 in 10 adults before the pandemic. Many adults are reporting very negative impacts on their mental health and well-being. It's difficulty sleeping, eating, increases in substance use, and generally speaking, worsening of chronic conditions due to worry and stress. Many people are experiencing situations linked to poor mental health outcomes, such as isolation and job loss. There was a very comprehensive study done by the University of Queensland not that long time ago, at the end of 2021, and they tried to quantify how many more cases we have of mental health problems globally. And it appeared that they recorded almost 80 million extra cases of anxiety and over 50 million extra cases of major depressive disorder. This is pretty worrying. And what is even more worrying is that they showed that it's mainly women and young adults who suffer the most from mental health problems. And that's probably because women take additional career and household responsibilities, and young people, but with the same token, have also been faced with a series of challenges. They have been impacted by the closure of schools and higher educational facilities. And as we know, it's utterly important for young people to interact with their peers for normal development and for their mental health as well. Now, let me move on to who is Wim Hof and what's his method about, and then we will see some of the scientific evidence behind them. Wim Hof's method is or rather motto, is you're stronger than you think you are. He's born into a very large Dutch family of devout Catholics, over now, probably 60 years ago. He almost died when his mother was given birth to his twin brother Andre and Wim. Wim barely survived. Neither his mother nor the medical professionals knew that there was actually a second child coming. And so his mother pushed so strongly and said, well, oh God, let his child live. And if he does, I'll make him a missionary. And Wim Hof became a missionary, but of a very, very different kind. As a child, he loved outdoors, he loved being in nature. He was a societal outcast almost all his life, and he didn't finish high school. He was a dropout and started to live in a squatter's home when he was 17. And that was, by the way, quite acceptable in the Netherlands back then. Not so much now. And it was during that time that Wim exposed himself and got interested in cold swims during winter times in the nearest park. It was at the beginning, it was more about attraction, or he had some kind of an impulse and almost like gut feel that attracted him to swimming in cold water. Who would have thought? But the icy water made him feel great. He said, okay, why didn't I do it once more and once more? So he did it again and again. And over time, he also learned how to consciously control his body through breathing and mind power. And one of his other mottos is learn to use the cold as a mirror to connect with yourself. And this is precisely how the Iceman was born. What are some of Wim Hof's achievements? He's a motivational speaker and also an extreme athlete. He's noted for his ability to withstand freezing temperatures. He has set the Guinness World Records in many different areas, including for swimming under ice and prolonged full body contact with ice. And he previously held the record for barefoot half marathon on ice and snow. Hof has been the subject of several medical assessments, and I'm going to talk about those in a while. And he has endured lengthy ice water baths and hiked to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro in shorts. So he's done quite a lot. What is the method, actually? There are 3 pillars to this method, and it's a daily practice. I can hardly recommend this book, The Wim Hof Method, that I've recently purchased. And as you can see, I've studied it and I'm actually using this method. There are 3 pillars to this method, and it's a daily practice. It includes breath, mind, and cold. And cold has got, the scientists have got a name for it. It's therapeutic hypothermia. This is what his method entails. So with breathing, starting very quickly with breathing, what you do is just basically alternate the cycles of breathing, the dynamics of how you breathe, and how it is beneficial. I'll speak in a second. Then you are trying to connect your mind. Once you've finished with the breathing exercise, with your breathing practice, then you bring up a thought in your mind, something like an intention for the day. For example, you can say, today I feel happy, I feel healthy, I feel strong, I feel empowered, whatever your intention for the day might be. And then you can reflect on this thought and notice how your body feels. And if you identify any inner resistance, then you continue with breathing until you feel in full alignment between your intention and how your body responds to it, your emotions. And finally, there come cold showers. Hot showers are also beneficial in some circumstances, but he recommends very cold showers. You start probably 15 seconds a day in a cold shower for a week, then you increase it to 30 seconds and so on until you reach 2 minutes in cold showers. And this method is really based on this principle that the power of the mind works in connection with the body to impact human capability in a very profound way. Now you may think, okay, this sounds like a little bit of a new age stuff. And a lot of medical establishment was treating the Wim Hof and his method that way for a very long time. And it's only recently that researchers have started to look at what he's doing, at his immune system, at the reactions, how he's withstanding freezing temperatures, because it's probably not even humanly possible what he's doing, and yet he's doing it. There was an article in Nature, it has nothing to do with Wim Hof, it was in 2019, called Inflammation and Cancer. And what this article in Nature, which is one of the most prestigious journals in the world, said is that cancer, depression, arthritis, disorder, they're all caused by deregulation of our immune and endocrine and hormonal systems, and that's through uncontrolled inflammation. So inflammation is behind most of the problems that we have as humanity. And what the Wim Hof method shows is that with simple breathing, concentration and meditation techniques and cold, we're able to suppress the inflammatory markers in our blood. One of the first scientists to be really interested was not unusual, a PhD student who was working in the, what was the name of the university? The Redbound University Medical Center, and that's in the Netherlands. Matthias Cox was a young PhD student, and at the time, that was the belief in the medical community that the immune system is in part controlled by the autonomous nervous system, a system which cannot be directly influenced. That was how they thought about it. And yet, when they looked at what Wim Hof was doing, and he was claiming that he can influence his autoimmune system. And after this kind of interest, they said, okay, well, what have we got to lose? Let's give him a chance. Let's invite Wim Hof and we will study how he reacts. And what they do, an inflammation test. What they did is they gave him an inflammation test, and it involves exposure to a bacterial toxin, and it's typically E. coli, and that was meant to induce temporary fever, headache, and shivering. The results were nothing short of spectacular because, to Cox's surprise, Hof's response, as the article says, to the toxin was milder than in most of people. He had less severe flu-like symptoms, for example, the lower levels of inflammatory proteins in his blood. So it was not self-reported, but it was based on blood results. But then, of course, when they published this article, they were very careful to say that it's only one person study. It's a case study of an unusual individual. But how can we replicate this study in other subjects? Can we do it? And they suggested to try it with Wim Hof and training other participants in a series, in another experiment. And this is precisely what they did. They chose 24 participants, 12 in each group, 12 in an experimental group and 12 in control group. The experimental group was going to be trained by Wim Hof in meditation, in breathing, in exposure to cold. So he went with them to Poland, of all places, because it was really cold at that time, and underwent the training program that included things like swimming in frigid water and lying bare-chested in the snow, as well as breathing and meditation exercises. At first, the researchers thought that all these participants will need to be trained for months, but it wasn't the case. Wim Hof said, "Oh, we will be done in under 2 weeks," and they were really done very, very quickly. And the other 12 participants in that particular study were left untreated. The control group, they were just injected with a toxin without undergoing through the training. So again, mind you, you have E. coli injected in you. And what were the results from the study? Well, the results, again, were quite spectacular. On average, all those recruits who underwent training by Hof reported fewer flu-like symptoms than those who did not. Trained recruits also produced lower amounts of several proteins associated with inflammation and high levels of anti-inflammation protein, and that's called interleukin number 10. And they were really wondering, well, what is it that contributing to these phenomenal results? And they suspected, in particular the PhD student Matthias Cox, suspected that it's the breathing technique that were the biggest contributor to suppressing inflammatory responses. And other researchers also commented on this study. They said you can't understand immunity without understanding its neural regulation. And they have found one such regulatory circuit that can be modulated. So the outcome of that is really clearly showing that you can change your immune system, you can improve your immune system. These results were so good that eventually the article was published in Nature, which is again one of the most prestigious academic scientific journals. Also, what the researchers did later on with Wim Hof, they invited him to take his brain scans to understand how he can activate some parts of the brain at will. And these parts of the brain, I'm talking specifically about the access to the limbic system, which governs our memory and our emotion. It seems, or rather it was believed to be inaccessible to humans. And that enables, this limbic system enables us to endure pain, and we can release natural opioids in our brain. And if these natural chemicals are released, then, well, it creates a feeling of euphoria in the body. So you can really address anxiety and depression with the help of cold and emotions and regulating your emotions. And this is precisely what a couple of scholars decided to do in 2018. This study was eventually published in Neuroimage and Music and Diwat Kar, both professors. And what they were saying is that they found compelling evidence of the key components of the autonomous processes of the brain related to mood regulation. In plain speak, it's emotion. You can regulate your mood, you can regulate your emotional state. And the way they did it is they used two very popular in digital imaging techniques. One is fMRI, and the other one is PET. Which is position emission tomography. And as this article suggests, the Iceman's results, when compared to a group of healthy comparison participants, was startling. So what was particularly startling, professors really never seen anything like that before. He was exposed to repeated cycles of warm and cold water, and yet he was able to raise his temperature, bodily temperature, by 1 degree and maintain it. So they thought it's a natural remedy for people with health conditions, and particularly depression and cardiovascular diseases. And in the end, they said that these results are striking, again, using this word, not only for what they reveal about the Iceman, of course, but even more, and as for the implications of the relevance of the Wim Hof method to behavioral and physical health. The researchers hypothesized that by generating a stress-induced analgesic response, the Wim Hof method may promote the spontaneous release of opioids in the brain. This effect has the potential to create a feeling of well-being, mood control, and reduced anxiety. So really very, very powerful and very simple. So let me end this up with a couple of observations, couple of thoughts. The first one is that the Creator has given you this unique immune system. And with the Wim Hof method, you can actually influence your immune system and your emotions. You can activate your potential and transcend your limits. And all of that really at a zero cost. All you need to do is probably just buy this book, or go to YouTube. There are lots of videos with Wim Hof totally for free. You can watch his techniques. You can watch people who are talking about the method and how it helped them. Again, this is not medical advice. Always consult your doctor, but it does seem to help. And these techniques have held up to the scrutiny of researchers and scientists all across the globe. They can help with a wide range of diseases caused by inflammation, and this is true also of depression and pain. We can really heal the planet with the Wim Hof method. And most importantly, for 2022, be kind and loving to each other, because there are big changes ahead of us, and we can all benefit from this method. Thank you for joining. I shall see you on the Fringe next Friday at 2 p.m. Dubai time. Time for some music now.